Ladies and gentlemen, today we come at you with the results of the worst champion of every class survey. So if you didn't see the last video that was a couple of days ago on the channel, we did a video talking about potentially some of the worst characters for every class, but the whole point of the video was to get you guys to vote on your worst champion of every class in the game, so that we have 6 champions emerge forward as the 6 duds, the bottom of their rank, and then we definitively, guys, out of these 6 champions, which is going to be a tie into the video today, there will be a survey in the description where you can vote out of these 6 champions which one is the worst one, and then we are going to crown the worst champion of 2K16 on the channel tomorrow, guys. And then we're going to do a bit of a revamp video where we look at this character, talk about, why it's so bad, and then completely rework their abilities to make them a bit more of a viable champion, a bit more competitive, and talk about, what they're lacking and stuff. So let's go through the results. So the first thing that I wanted to say is I was not really expecting this many responses. When I initially made the survey, I was like, oh yeah, if we get 500 responses, that's really, really great, because, if you've done marketing or surveying before, you'll know how hard it is to get survey responses, and we got just over 1,347. Well, that's the number we got. I don't know why I said just over, but I did, guys. You're gonna have to deal with that. So, yeah, we got 1,347 responses, which is absolutely incredible. Did not anticipate that number, but that gives us a lot of data to look at, a lot of community opinion. So we got a few troll responses, guys, a few Scarlet Witches, a few Black Widow votes, but for the most part, a lot of people, 95% seem to have completed the survey quite accurately, so, that's quite good, guys, that's quite good. Now, let's talk about the worst champion, guys, what the votes were. So, Science, as maybe expected, I didn't expect Spider-Gwen to win by this much of a large margin, but she won by 53.7% of all of the votes went towards Spider-Gwen, which in comparison to the second, who is Luke Cage, who only got 12.8% of the votes, and Joe Fixit got 10.9%, that's quite a large margin to win by. So, guys, it is official, Spider-Gwen is the worst Science champion. Like, it's now confirmed by 53.7% of people. So the worst skill champion, which I wasn't expecting to see, again, such a landslide win here as well, is the Winter Soldier with 64% and 862 votes. Now, one of the things, if you didn't watch the video, the introduction to the last video, we did not include Punisher in here. The only champions included in this survey are the non-special ones, so ones that will eventually be rewarded from either a premium hero crystal or a 4-star hero crystal. And Punisher, he's only available via arena crystals, and in comparison to the 10,000 gold or 45 units, he's a much better reward to get a 4-star Punisher. So we didn't include him in this one. So if we did, he'd probably be the worst skill champion. But Winter Soldier, he did win there, which was not really that expected. But I was a little bit surprised to see that Karnak actually came second in this survey, next to Falcon. Karnak, I think, is a really, really good champion. I just don't think enough people, know fully about his abilities and what he can do, because in his focus state, he can actually fully bypass evasion, which makes him potentially really, really good for fighting Spider-Man or any bosses with a lot of evasion in Act 5 when that comes out, or, if we get, a revamp of the Chloe's event or any sort of event with Spider-Man, he's going to be a really, really good character for that. Whereas Falcon, he's got some nice synergies, but I expected him to actually come, a little bit closer to Winter Soldier than Karnak did. But regardless of which, it's a pretty landslide win for the Winter Soldier there. Now, Cosmic, just an absolute, again, landslide win for Kamala Khan. She got 67.3% of the votes at 907 votes, which wasn't too surprising. But the second character, which I was a little bit shocked by, was Groot, which I can kind of understand the opinion there of he's not really a great offensive champion, and I guess in the really, really tier 1 alliance wars, where the Mystic Dispersion defenders seem to be very dominant, as well as heavy evade teams, I can see him not really having too much of a use there, so I kind of do understand that opinion, why he's the second least desired Cosmic champion, with Black Bolt, I believe, coming at third, and then a lot of troll votes for the old 4 God of Thunder there. But yeah, it was a bit interesting to see that. Now, on to the worst mutant champion. Now, out of all of the graphs, guys, out of all the survey responses, this one by far has the most disparity. Like, the winner of this one, guys, is Old Man Logan, right? But he only won by 35.2% of the votes, which is, like, quite significantly less than any other class in the game. There's a lot of disparity, but the other votes, the kind of second for worst mutant champion was Gambit, which I do understand there. Gambit was a huge letdown in terms of kind of his abilities and actual viability in the game. He doesn't really have too much of a use. Like, there are always better options with different characters for different scenarios, and the fact that he can do some cool stuff, he can bypass a bit of defensive ability accuracy, he can reduce healing, but the fact that those effects never have like a guaranteed proc, I think also makes him a little bit trashy. And then third, we had Magneto Marvel Now, who's, you know, strictly, in my opinion, a bit of a worse version of Magneto, but Magneto is still a fairly good character and still fairly useful in some scenarios, so I can see why, you know, some people voted for Old Man Logan as a worse champion by comparison, because I do agree that, you know, Old Man Logan is worse than Magneto Marvel Now. We also had Colossus, who got 9.9% of the votes, which I can understand. Doesn't really have too much of a place in Alliance War now that there are much better defenders and that 4-star champions are much easier to obtain. And then finally we had Beast, who got 7.5% of the votes, which I kind of understand. Beast is a very mediocre champion. He's not really great, but he's not really too terrible either. I don't think like any of the worst mutant champions, even like Old Man Logan, I don't think he's as bad as champions like Spider-Gwen, Kamala Khan, and Winter Soldier. But mutant, I'd say this speaks for a lot about the strength of the mutant class. I think a lot of the characters, you know, bring something decent to the table, but you can see there are, you know, a few characters that just don't really bring enough to the table to be like really desired or played champions, especially in the end game of Marvel Contest of Champions. Now we look at the worst tech champion, which, guys, this one wasn't too much of a surprise. Iron Patriot won by an absolute landslide, because, you know, Iron Patriot, guys, to put it very simply, is a worse version of Iron Man, who is often perceived to be a worse version of Superior Iron Man. So, you know, he's just not a champion you wanna see pop up in your 4-star hero crystal. And then secondly, we have War Machine, who I'm very inclined to agree with. A lot of people will say, you know, War Machine, you know, just put him on an unblockable level 1 in Alliance War, and I think that's an interesting use for the champion. But, you know, the problem is, like, outside of that unblockable level 1, like, what's the champion, like, good for? Like, are you ever gonna use him? Can you justify all of the resources to upgrade this champion to just put him on an unblockable level 1? And the answer to that for 99.9% of people is no. No, you just don't want to do that. So I'm Patriot, clear winner for the worst tech champion. And then finally we had the worst mystic champion, and this one actually really surprised me because I didn't think this one was going to go down as it did. So Loki won by the big landslide of votes. 49.2%, and I think that's mainly the reason. The only thing that Loki really kind of has going for him is his buff steal, and in 60% of the fights his buff steal does absolutely nothing. In kind of 30 to 35% of the fights it's a really nice novelty, and in the other 5% when you're against maybe like a Groot or a Venom or just some sort of opponent where you can steal a lot of buffs, it can be really good. But there are champions that can deal with that a lot more effectively, like Scarlet Witch or Magic or Mordo, and those champions, you know, have a lot more uses in the game, so it makes sense to use your resources on them. And especially with Mordo having higher prestige than Loki, it really kind of has solidified Loki as the garbage champion when it comes to Mystic champions. However, the second vote, which I wasn't really expecting, was for Jane Foster. I think that's maybe because a lot of people might not have the character duped when she's duped. She needs to be duped and awakened to be a really good character. And then on all of her stuns, so when you parry, you get guaranteed critical hits and additional damage added to that. But, you know, when she's unduped, she really does suck. She hits like an even wetter noodle than Loki, and doesn't really have too much going for her. She has a chance to stagger like Juggernaut, which is, you know, a lot worse than something like a Nullify on a Scarlet Witch or Magic. So yeah, for Jane Foster, I didn't really expect her to be second, actually. I expected Iron Fist to be second, and was a little bit surprised to see the Iron Fist, you know, got a lot less votes. You know, a lot of people rating Iron Fist because, you know, I think he's probably in like the top 5 worst Mystic champions. But again, Mystic is just such a strong and competitive class in terms of the the characters and what they can do. And then finally we had Unstoppable Colossus as the third worst Mystic champion, which I kind of am inclined to agree with. However, I do think, especially a duped Unstoppable Colossus, if you get a 5-star one, if you've been playing the game for a very, very long time, and if you're in those top tier Alliance Wars, if you got Mystic Dispersion as a mastery, if you are building your team fully around Mystic characters, I think he's a good character. I think you can really, really use him for that. But then again, you know, it takes such a long time to get to that level of power for that character, because you need to save up so many, like, Alliance tokens, that it's just gonna, you know, it's gonna take you, like, such an incredibly long time to, like, fully feel the benefit of that character. So I kind of do understand that, but I wanted to include him in anyway, just for the fun of that one, really, guys. So that's it, guys. We got the worst champions. Just to recap: Science, Spider-Gwen, Skill, Winter Soldier, Cosmic, Kamala Khan, Mutant, Old Man Logan, Tech, Iron Patriot, and Mystic Loki. So again, there will be a survey attached to this video, guys, to vote on the worst champion of every class. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have just over 24 hours to get your votes in for the worst champion in the game. I honestly have no idea who is going to be nominated as the worst champion in the game 2016. I'm very, very excited to find out the end result and see what you guys vote as the worst champion. So again, I kind of think, you know, just roughly predicting, I think it's going to be between Spider-Gwen, Kamala Khan, and also Iron Patriot. I don't think Loki's going to be it. I don't think Old Man Logan's going to be it. And I think Winter Soldier is slightly better than Iron Patriot, Kamala Khan, and Spider-Gwen. But I don't know, guys. I'm very excited to see what you vote. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed today's one. Feel free to leave a thumbs up. Remember to fill out the survey, guys, because we need your vote, guys. Your input is very important to this. Once again, guys, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.